Hello, dear friends. I hope you had a good weekend. We are having clear skies today, and although it may not look it, it is really, really cold, particularly inside the house. Because we seldom experience temperatures of less than -2 or -3 in this country, our homes are not built for the cold. We don't have double glazing on the windows, for example. The house we are in now has high ceilings, the bedrooms have wooden floors, but the rest are all cement. So when you come in from outside, it feels like you're walking into a fridge. Anyway, okay, now I know some of you, once you've listened to this video, will say that everything I'm saying is old news. And indeed, you will be correct because this is meant to be a synopsis of the situation we found ourselves in. Okay, so I'm going to start with this. You must have heard that Dr. Melissa Drake, the doctor who supposedly oversaw Lily's birth, had suddenly, or rather suddenly, closed her practice. She gave notice round about mid-May, and the practice will be completely closed by the end of June. She apparently did not arrange referrals for her patients and absolutely nothing. And this is rather strange. My particular or my own personal doctor is part of a huge practice in our neighboring town, and the doctors belong to a sort of exchange program whereby they go and work elsewhere in the world for 1 to 3 months. We are always warned, and they always get a stand in for whichever particular doctor will be away. One of the doctors even immigrated last year, and the same applied. Patients were warned about it about 3 months in advance. Now, in his statement, Dr. Drake says she is closing her practice to take care of her own health and have some time with her children, which could, of course, be true. Even doctors get sick and even doctors need time out. It happens. But to close the practice down so rather suddenly just does not sit well with me. I'm sure that had she wanted to, she could have gotten someone to take over her practice for 3 months to a year. Of course, this woman has a right to her privacy, and if she has real health and family issues, then I wish her everything of the best for the future. Having said that, I find it a little strange that she made such a rush and final decision over such a relatively short period of time, and also that it came just about a week, or at least the notice came just about a week after those photos of Little Bit were released, and basically just before Tom Bauer's book will be released. Of course, there is the added fact that Dr. Drake's husband is a fertility specialist, or the fertility specialist, Dr. Daniel Reislick. A little strange that Harry and Meghan specifically chose a younger obstetrician whose husband handles various fertility issues, IVF and surrogacy, including, and it is specifically mentioned on his website, third party surrogacy, where the egg actually comes from a donor or the surrogate herself. Now, as you may know, it is not regular practice in the United States, and it is not allowed in certain states in America, but in California it is. Now I'm going to be straight up honest here. I do not have the assistance, the help, or the contacts in the United States like I do in the United Kingdom. And thus, other than having paid a few dollars for a copy of Lily's birth certificate, there wasn't much I could do. Anyway, Paula M., as some of you may know, went through the exact same steps to get a copy of Lily's birth certificate, and she got the same reply, namely that it does not exist in the state of California. And Paula and I still joked about the fact that I paid less for the copy I wanted than she did, because at the end of the day, the money will not be returned to you. Now, a friend of mine also made a phone call to the cottage hospital the weekend Lily was supposedly born. And for the first time, I shall indeed play you part of the calls. Okay, so at least that is something new in this video.
Hi, I'm calling because I wanted to see if there was a famous birth that took place on June 4th, last Friday.
You want to know about something that took place June 4th?
Yes, it's about a famous birth, like Prince Harry and Meghan Markle supposedly gave birth on Friday.
Huh.
At this hospital. She said, huh.
Good morning, Santa Barbara Cottage Hospital. How may I direct your call?
Yes, how do I contact someone for information at the hospital? I think you keep connecting me to a doctor that's on call, but she has no clue what's going on. Can you direct me to someone?
Who are you calling?
I'm calling about, we're calling from the news. We wanted to know if there was a famous birth that took place on June 4th, last Friday.
Oh, yeah. Not many people. We have our media person. Let's see if she knows.
Transfer me to the media person.
The party you have called, Maria Zate, cannot be reached. You may leave a message or transfer to another extension. To leave.
Now, as you can hear in the first part that I'm playing you, when my friend asked for information on Lily's birth, the person who was on the other end of the phone said, huh? She didn't know what my friend was talking about. Then she called again a little later, and she was put through to the media liaison officer, or supposedly. And I apologize, I have Hayley in the same room here, so you will hear her in the background. Now, as you can hear from this call, the phone rang and rang, and the media liaison officer, he or she, did not pick up, likely knowing what the call was about. Then there was a story that one of Oprah's cameramen saw something concerning the bump, which he was not supposed to see. Filming was apparently, allegedly, stopped and quick NDAs were signed. Whether that was true or not, I do not know. That is what I was told. Then, even more concerning was the fact that there was no official announcement of Lily's birth at Buckingham Palace. There were no photographs released of the baby, the very first photograph being the one on the actual Christmas card, exactly 6 months after Lily's supposed birth. And then there were the photographs released 6 months after that when Lily turned 1. Now go look at your own children's pictures. And I'm placing a photograph of Princess Charlotte here at 1. For me, it is clear that the child Meghan is holding in the black and white photograph is older than 1. My guess would be that child is closer to 2, perhaps even 18 months old. We have seen Nacho and his wife, the Fosters, etc., bringing their children to the polo matches. But not once have we seen Meghan and Harry doing the same. Now, weeks after the Jubilee, we still do not know whether the children were even in the United Kingdom. Yes, mainstream media are reporting that they were, and that they were told, namely, that the Queen did indeed meet Lily and saw the kids, blah, blah, blah. However, from the Farnborough airport, we hear that nobody saw the children get off or onto that plane. If anyone at the Farnborough airport can send me an undoctored, date-stamped photograph of those two children getting onto that plane, I will send him or her a gift pack from our local winery, and I mean it. The first person to send me proof of those children getting on or off that private aeroplane will receive a gift pack of 3 world-class wines. But be warned, it will be tested for Photoshop and other applications, okay? Okay, and then besides the black and white photo of Meghan holding that child, there was also the color photograph of the girl with no legs. We have tried it. We have posed little kiddies of 12 to 14 months and tried to cover their feet with their dresses. In the first place, little ones of 12 months do not sit like that, or at least they do not want to. They still want to sit on their bum with their legs stretched out in front of them. Okay, and now the sugars are saying that Lily is definitely sitting in front of Frogmore. No, not true. On the screen, you will see a photograph of me in Canada, except that it is not true. The photo of me was actually taken in the mountains here outside my hometown. And all I did was I removed myself from the picture and placed it into a picture I took in Canada. And look, I did the same with Lily, where I placed her in my daughter's garden. On another photograph, I blurred the background just like the one they published. But I decided to publish this one so you can clearly see that she is in a different place. So yes, I for one had not seen proof that either of the children were in the United Kingdom. I can also apply different filters and change the child's hair and eye color. And I can do that for you if you really want me to. Anyway, so with no proof of life certificate signed by a doctor and a midwife, now typing in a name anyone can do. There are indeed blank documents on the internet, and without Harry's full names on the document, the one we saw published by TMZ, that document means absolutely nothing. And in my opinion, the one published by TMZ was indeed bogus. And I'm putting on the screen a copy of a real birth certificate in California compared to the one we saw published. Now, unfortunately, that is as far as we got on Lily, except for Ellen DeGeneres, apparently. I have not heard of anyone who had seen the child in California. If you look at the photographs of them arriving back in California and in that vehicle, there is no sign of the children either. Harry is sitting next to the driver, Meghan in the center at the back, and there is no sign of a child seat either side of her. Okay, Now, like I said, that is as far as my knowledge on Lily goes. When it comes to Archie, however, there is indeed a lot more. We saw Megan with a wobbly bump, rocking and shaking in all directions. We saw the bulk of the bump sliding to her knees. We saw her going on her haunches in high heels at nearly 9 months pregnant and getting up without help. And then the coup de grace. Although 2 weeks late, we finally heard that the Duchess went into labor and 2 hours later that she had given birth. But there was a very good reason why one of the reporters nearly swallowed his tongue and went off air, as at the time of making the announcement, Megan was supposedly already home with Archie. Now, we all know why they did it that way. It was because they did not want journalists gathering at St. Mary's or the Portland Hospital to photograph them leaving, or so one would think. But what if the reason they did not want journalists there was because they didn't want photographs of them not leaving the hospitals? Now, indeed, and I can vouch for this, numerous calls were made to the Portland minutes after the announcement, and obviously before the news had reached everybody. And of the few calls I know of, not once did anyone even admit to a VIP birth taking place at the Portland, and definitely not just after 5 a.m. Records actually show that the first midwife signed in at around 7 a.m. Then people, including myself and a few friends, started looking for the doctor who could potentially have delivered Archie. First, it was said Archie was delivered by Dr. Penelope Law. And yes, that is what Megan would have told Scobie and Durant, because that is what they put in their book. Where else would they have gotten that name from to put in their book? But then I spoke with a young lady who actually worked with Dr. Penelope, and she told me straight out that Dr. Penelope was not there as she was on leave. And lo and behold, someone found a tweet by Dr. Penelope's husband in which he stated that his wife did not deliver Archie. According to him, they were on holiday and out of the country. So it transpired that my source, this lady who worked with Dr. Penelope, was indeed 100% correct and truthful. Now we had an even bigger problem in our search. That is, until Meghan Markle made it known that Dr. Gowrie Mother delivered Archie. Okay, cool. Except that it was very, very easy. It took one phone call and just to make sure an email to find out that Dr. Gowrie Mother is not and never had privileges to practice or teach at the Portland Hospital. We then sent an email to Dr. Mother, but she did not reply to it. But I guess that is why it was said she coached Megan during the delivery of Lily via phone, because at least we couldn't yet again prove that she wasn't even in the room when Lily was born. How embarrassing, but never mind. To continue with Archie, we heard Harry talk about the birth later that day or the next day, can't remember, and we heard him say they changed so much in 2 weeks. 2 weeks? When Archie was only a day old, or supposedly only a day old? Then they brought a baby out when Archie was supposedly about 2 days old, and everything about the appearance looked awkward. Megan's bump was skew. She appeared in a white and or cream dress, and Harry dug his thumb so hard into the baby that had it been a real child, it would have screamed to high heaven. Then there was the photograph with Doria, the Queen, Prince Philip, etc. And we are all aware by now that the photograph looks and seems a little off. Proportions are not right. Doria is not taller than Meghan, for instance. The Queen is also wearing the same clothes she was wearing to a pony show. If you pixelate the picture, you will see that the pixels of Meghan differs from the pixels of Prince Philip or the Queen, for instance. However, they all gather together and there should be no difference. Anyway, that's that. Then there was the christening photograph. Firstly, the metadata dates the photograph to the 8th of May. Poor Catherine is a giant in the photo. Diana's sisters have no reflections, and the time on William's watch is not the same as on the clock on the wall. But people have come up with all kinds of excuses, like camera angles and old clock theories, etc., etc. What everyone has refused to explain to this very day is how Archbishop Welby could have been in two places at the same time. Because Meghan and Harry released that the Archbishop himself christened Archie when the Archbishop himself was at a synod meeting in York. Now, I have previously published the minutes and the agenda of the synod meeting. I have spoken to the niece of a bishop. Yeah, Archbishop Welby was actually seen in York that particular day. So how he got to Windsor to christen Archie and back in a matter of 2 hours, I don't know. In any case, I have hinted at the fact that I had some legal trouble about a year ago, and at the time, the person who kindly advised me also requested another lawyer to request a copy of Archie's real birth certificate. Well, he did not get one and was informed that it was sealed. At some point, I also found out who the lady in brown at the church was. Now, I'm not going to tell how I found out, but I did. And I'm not going to give her name either, but suffice it to say, she actually works at the church, or she did. I have not checked to see whether she still does, okay? I sent her an email, and all I can tell you is she is aware of the gossip, and all I can tell you is that she is aware of the gossip about her. However, I can honestly tell you that she is not Archie's surrogate. She was acknowledged by Meghan and Harry because they have met before, and that is that. There was, however, another picture of them, Harry and Meghan, visiting a health and wellness store while Meghan was supposedly pregnant. It was after closing time, and we saw them meet with a young lady. Well, although the owner of Il Apothecary could not and would not reply to inquiries as I expected, I found out that she was a midwife before she went to work overseas and came back to open her business. Going into her social media accounts, you will also notice that she has involvements and doing business with many doctors, health and wellness centers, and numerous fertility clinics. Finally, someone who had listened to many of my videos came forward and offered to look for Archie's baptism records at the actual church. Long story short, she could not find any. When she asked for it, she was told it is not open to public scrutiny. Now, this would have been fine, except that every other royal's baptism records is public. And according to the royal website, Archie is indeed seventh in line to the throne. So, yes, my dears, it is not okay. But if you think this is the end of it, no, it's not. Many, many moons ago, I said something in a video which someone attached to the royal family heard incorrectly or misunderstood. I cannot even remember which video it was, as it was more than a year ago. The person was so angry that she did not even notice my email address at the end of the video. Or maybe she thought if she DM'd me via Instagram and then deleted her Instagram page, the message will also go away. Well, it didn't, and I screenshot it. Our original communication had nothing to do with Archie, but she gave me the opportunity to ask a few questions before she again deleted the Instagram page she specifically created to talk to me. And of course, I asked about Archie, and this is what she told me. She told me that when she saw the live child for the first time, he looked older and bigger than she expected him to. She said she even mentioned it to Megan, who just replied that her father was also a big baby. I asked whether she thought Archie was born from Megan's body, and she said that she did not know 100%, but basically that the talk in these elite circles, or in her circle, or in the royal circles, was that he wasn't born of Meghan Markle's body. She also told me that she saw Archie a few times after his birth and even a few times after they moved to the United States, but that she did not recognize him in every photo that was put out of him, and that they are as confused and perplexed as we are as to why Megan is playing silly buggers with the public. For a while, I was also in communication with someone who had contact with the Harkles during their first few months in the United States. She told me a little about the goings on in the Tyler Perry mansion, and one thing she told me was that Archie came and went, something which another person collaborated a few months later. Now, absolutely no one knew why or where he was during his absences. However, according to the second person, Archie was not at home when Harry went to Prince Philip's funeral, and that he returned, according to her, a day or two after Harry did. She did, however, admit, yes, she was this honest, that he could have returned the same time as Harry, but that she may just not have seen him until a day or two later. But she was adamant that Archie was not at the Montecito home while Harry was in Britain for Prince Philip's funeral. Now, we both children are concerned, and here those of you in the legal profession will agree. Many of the things I just said here may be construed as fact by us, the spectators, but it will not hold up in a court because, except for the dodgy handling and withholding of legitimate documentation for the children, everything else is considered hearsay. Now, we keep asking questions like, why would Harry and Meghan not take their children to the polo to enjoy the sunshine and interact with other children? Why didn't they take at least Archie to the Jubilee pageant? Why did no one see the children get on or off that private plane? Where are those children? Who are they? It does not matter what the Sugars or anyone else says, as they are in the line of succession, and for as long as Harry hangs on to those titles and his position in the line of succession, the public has a right to know and have those questions answered. I heard a number of people making excuses for the royal family, saying things like, oh, the royal family knows they are so far down the line of succession that they are no threat to the monarchy, and therefore it was easier to just include them. They are basically only included on paper. Well, here is a shocker for you. No, they are not. We heard that Meghan allegedly said that they, her and Harry, are just one plane crash away from the throne. We heard everyone laughing and saying she is delusional. But no, my dears, she is not as delusional as you may all think. Charles is in his 70s, and everyone else ahead of Harry in the line of succession come from the same household. Now, I'm not going to say anything, but I want you to think about that for a moment. I also heard excuses like, it is not the royal family's place or duty to tell the truth. It is Harry and Meghan's duty. Well, I disagree on that. It is the duty of the senior members of the royal family to protect the integrity of the monarchy. And no, it is never, ever, ever too late for the truth. Plus, it would be so much better for the truth to be told by either the Harkles or the royal family than for it to come out by other means. Whatever the truth is, if that child was born from Meghan Markle's body, surely there would be nothing easier to prove than that. Now, questions like the ones we have about Harry and Meghan's children should never arise, and particularly not in the royal family. Can any of you imagine what damage it will do to the children themselves when one day they read or hear all about these things about themselves? I imagine the resentment they will harbor against their parents. Okay, guys, now, like I said, this was not a very detailed, but just a general recap of all or some of the discrepancies which arose surrounding the children. I'm going to link some of the videos I had made on this particular subject in the description box for those of you who have not seen it or want to revisit it. as it was obviously fresher and contained far more description and details. Now, during the course of this week, there may be fewer videos, but I'm in the mood for a few deep dives, which obviously takes more time and work. And then I have the added issues of load shedding and so on. So, ladies and gentlemen, until we meet on the next video, please take good care of yourselves. Bye.